Good evening, Zimbabwe. Good evening, villagers. Good evening, compatriots, comrades and friends. This is your favorite podcast. This is your platform. I'm Norman Mary, the village president, your host today. We have been privileged to have time to host Obed Masaraure. I know as villagers, as Zimbabweans, compatriots, we know Obed is not a stranger to our contemporary socio-economic and political issues. He has been a critical voice over the years, and today he has given us his time to join us to discuss pertinent issues affecting me and you, affecting every citizen, affecting every villager. Comrade Obed, personally, as your host here, I've known him for quite some time, for decades actually, from our student activism days, being student leaders. He was actually my president in Zinasu. He's the current president of Amalgamated Rural Teachers in Zimbabwe, ATUZ. He's also the spokesperson of, actually, I would say, all workers in Africa. He's a leftist like myself. So, President Obed, welcome. Please greet our viewers.
Thank you so much, Comrade Mary, for having me on this particular podcast, and thank you for the generous introduction. Greetings, viewers. It is great to be here.
Thank you, Comrade Obed. In the interest of our time, I will go straight to the issues of today. We have a lot of issues I know would actually need a decade or more to talk about all the pertinent issues that me and you and all the progressives in Zimbabwe would want to, converge on, to come and reason together. But today, I have one or two issues that I would want you to share your insight, considering one, your experience, both as a leader and also as a citizen, and as a fellow, I would say, sufferer, if I could invent that word. We are all suffering, in Zimbabwe as citizens. So I'm going to go straight to the issues. But before I go anywhere, I know me and you, our background would literally and naturally force us, to talk to issues that relate to what is, next to our hearts. We are both educationists. We cut our professional teeth in education. And that is where I would want to start with you. Comrade, in at most 5 sentences, before we go anywhere, what is the state of our education in Zimbabwe currently?
Thank you so much, Comrade Mary, for that question. I think what we need to agree on is that just like any other sector in Zimbabwe, our education sector is suffering from neglect, from incompetence, general mismanagement. So, because the wealth of the republic is being enjoyed by a few, our schools are choking because of shortages. The teachers are demoralized. The learners can't make it to the classroom because they can't pay for the learning materials and the school fees. The school ecosystem itself is struggling. There are no teaching materials. The infrastructure is collapsing, and some schools do not even have the infrastructure. The education sector really is just the same as the bulk of the sectors across the country. which are suffering from years of neglect and incompetence from ZANU-PF.
Okay, I know I had closed my question. I know you have a lot and I have to say on these issues. So I would just love maybe if you could just expand. And this is next to my heart also. And I know as the village president myself, the issue of inequality in our education system is something that affected myself. It is still affecting, I think, millions and millions of our children, not in Zimbabwe only, not even in Africa only, but across the global south. So my question is, one, what do you think are the causes of inequality to access to education in Zimbabwe? One. Two, what is your take, both as Obed Masaraure and also as the president of ATUS, on the two-tier examination system in Zimbabwe, where we have Cambridge and Simpson? What's your take there? Then, of course, how do you think we can address the issue of what I would term inequality to access in education in Zimbabwe and in Africa and in the global south?
Yeah, okay. Thanks so much. I think the crisis of inequality begins when we treat education as a commodity for sale. I think that is where the crisis begins. So those who are able to buy the commodity can have better access than those who can't afford the commodity. So generally, education, if it were treated as a service, the state would be striving to provide it to each and every citizen, the same quality um, under the same circumstances. But unfortunately, it has been reduced to be a commodity on the market. And when it becomes a commodity on the market, it then excludes those who do not have enough money to buy the commodity. So that has really been the crisis. So in Zimbabwe, if you are going to be looking at the current context, you realize that most of the times we are dealing with a situation where the parent now is demanded to fund, including the income of the teacher through extra lessons. They need to fund infrastructure development. They need to fund the buying of learning and learning and teaching materials. So most schools that are in the communities where the parents do not have much money, the schools, either there's no school completely, like we know of Hopefully, where they do not even have a secondary school, like we know in most of these new peri-urban settlements around Harare, like we know in the resettlement areas where our people moved during the fast track land reform program, where there were no schools. But because the communities who went there, again, they did not have the money to build the schools, and the state did not even support them. You do not even find the school. But when the schools are there, they are now congested. They are not teaching material, learning material, if the people can't afford. So at the end of the day, you go to our high density suburbs where you find our P2 and S2 schools in Kwadzana, among others. You will find them doing what, sitting, very little time to get lessons, and then the teachers are demoralized, and the teachers want to ask the learner to pay extra for extra lessons. So within that particular public school, you have learners who afford to pay extra lessons, getting better tuition, and then those better tutoring, but those who can't afford the extra lessons are completely excluded. So it's really a crisis where the government is not placing education uh, as a service with the potential to transform a nation, and just selling it as a commodity for the highest bidder on the market. So this has really been a crisis of neoliberalism, where
It has been a crisis of what?
it is a crisis of neoliberalism.
Okay,
Neoliberalism.
remember, I'm the president of villagers. Some of my villagers might want to understand what you might mean by neoliberalism. What exactly is that?
So I think this is just we can just say in short, it's a governance model where governments are encouraged to cut their expenditure on social services such as education. But under the same model, they are taxing the citizens heavily. Privatization is encouraged. So public expenditure on public infrastructure and public services is discouraged. So that is what we have embraced under the guidance mainly of the international financiers like the IMF and the World Bank, beginning during the ISAP era. It was part of the package of ISAP. So that's why in Zimbabwe you realize that soon after ISAP, this is where we go on to begin to seriously commodify education. So the commodification of education is an ideological agenda under neoliberalism. I don't know if
so Comrade Obed, sorry, you are telling me that, and you are telling all our viewers and the villagers here that in 2025, 45 years after our independence, which we actually basically our parents fought for, we have a basic right for our children, like education. Is it a fact that we are saying in Zimbabwe education is being treated as a commodity, where those who can afford can get education and those who cannot afford cannot get education? Is that the state of our education in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly what we have to deal with. So that is why you find that from in 2020, out of all the almost 300,000 learners who set for grade 7, when you move with that particular group of learners, that stream in public schools, and you get them to Form 4 in 2024, 128,000, almost 50% of those learners had been lost by our education system because they could not.
They got out of the system. They were chucked out by the mechanisms of capitalism and neoliberalism.
Yeah. So they could not afford to fund their way all the way to Form 4. Because you find that there are also examination fees that are then imposed when you want to sit for exams at ordinary level. And the exam fees at ordinary level can be as high as $23 per subject at the moment.
I know.
And then we have 10 subjects that you want to write, so that ordinarily translates to $230 for you to be a candidate. But we're dealing with families that cannot afford those incomes are below $2 per day or $1 in some extreme circumstances per day. So these are people.
You know why I had to cut in and ask you this question. You know, I am a villager myself. I live with the villagers. I know our income bracket as villagers. I know what they get and what they don't get. And I know what the man that ZIMSEC, which is our examination board in Zimbabwe, and even Cambridge for the elite or the so-called elite, is charging. So now if I look at our GDP per capita in Zimbabwe with an economics background and also as a villager and a teacher, I can see that what you are I would want to say alleging because I don't believe that a responsible government would actually allow or accept that a system like this would subsist, where we are saying education, basic as it is, can actually be commodified such that those who can afford to pay examination fees for this year, I know how much it was, and I know what our people are earning. So I would actually want to ask again, Comrade Ope, to say, is it really true that a child who cannot afford to pay examination fees in Zimbabwe cannot sit for the examination? Is it true that a child who cannot pay school fees, maybe per term or per month, in a public or government school in Zimbabwe, cannot be allowed to learn and to sit for examination? Is this a material fact that is subsisting in Zimbabwe 45 years after independence?
Yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint and tell you that it's indeed true. That if government has policies, we have very good laws. For example, if you are going to be reading Section 75 of our Constitution, it will prescribe something that is completely different from what is obtaining on the ground. Section 75 would mandate the state to fund basic education for all citizens, including adult education. Even if you are 30 and you say, no, but I want to go back to Form 1, the state ordinarily
Yes.
is supposed to fund your education from Form 1 to Form 4, because our Education Act defines basic education from early child development to ordinary level to Form 4. That should be covered by government. But unfortunately, the state is not funding. So what the state then does, it goes on to proclaim.
So hold on there. What is BIM thing that I always hear about, which is actually, I understand some villagers come to me. I'm a villager and we talk, which is actually being politicized in terms of the education of kids and whatever. What is BIM thing doing?
So people will remember, just to give the latest info, the latest news on BIM that people can easily find, is that the money that was intended for BIM for 2024 was diverted to fund the SADC conference. But the BIM had last received the funding around 2021 or so. So the BIM disbursements, the government is in arrears from as way back as 2022. But the BIM facility really is not covering all learners. So what the government does is then to say a school has to select learners that can benefit from the BIM program. But because the schools are
According to the severity of poverty,
according to this, yeah. But then,
meaning there should be a scale of poverty in our country, in our where we are saying who is more poorer than who in terms of access to education.
But when these learners are put on the scale of poverty now by the school authorities already have an inherent bias of trying to minimize the number of people to be on the BIM scheme, because they know that government doesn't disperse the funds. That's the first thing. Then those who have qualified to be on BIM, the government.
Okay, those who are the best poor.
The best poor. We have won the race of poverty.
Poverty.
Yeah, those now. Again, government is not fully funding for their education. Again, government promises, but the promise is not 100% funding to begin with. But then secondly, that promise is never delivered. So those learners now are suffering because they are suffering stigma of being said, these are for BIM. They have to deal with that stigma because you are in a school, because in David BIM. Like
I know what you are talking about. I've seen, my family and whatever, and they tell me these children, this issue of they don't want actually to be associated with BIM, which actually brings me to my next issue, Comrade Obed. We are having the education triangle: parents, children, teacher. We already have parents who are struggling to pay fees. It has been established, we know. I'm an economics teacher myself. I know the unemployment rate in Zimbabwe and so on and so on. I know the parent side. I'm also a parent myself. It's struggling. Now we have learners, the kids on the educational triangle, whose parents are failing to pay school fees for them in a system which requires them to pay the school fees, right? Then we have the third angle of our triangle, who is the educator. Me and you, we are educators. No one can take away that from you or from me or from any teacher. Anyway, whatever might happen or whatever, you are a teacher, I'm a teacher, and all teachers are teachers. Now we are saying, we know the parents who have dissected that issue, they can't afford this thing. The learners, they don't have any active voice in these things. They are victims of circumstances. Now, let's look at the teacher. Where is he in 2025?
Yeah, so unfortunately now the teacher also is still severely incapacitated. You understand that the teacher is also a parent. also want some income to pay, since education is a commodity, to pay for education for their own children. So it's very unfortunate that at some point you have a teacher teaching at a school, but they can't afford to pay the required school fees for their own children to be in the classroom where they are teaching. So now this is then demoralizes the teacher and then compromise the quality of service. So you understand that currently a teacher is earning around 270 US dollars. But if you are going to
wait, Comrade Obed,
yes,
how much is an ordinary teacher earning in Zimbabwe?
So an ordinary teacher is earning USD 270 per month.
You mean like end of September?
Yeah.
An ordinary teacher was earning $270 US dollars.
Yes, that's true.
In 2025.
Yeah, that's true.
In 2017, before old Bobo was chased away, how much were teachers earning in November 2017?
Yeah, the teacher used to earn $540.
540. So as far as you know yourself, did you have deflation or inflation in Zimbabwe from 2017 to 2025?
Consistently, we have experienced inflation, yeah.
So, this is a paradox now, Comrade Robert. You are saying in 2017, in November, an ordinary teacher, average teacher in Zimbabwe was earning 270 US dollars. 8 years down the line, the same teacher is earning $270, which is $300 less nominal, not in real terms. This is a nominal difference of $300. But if I factor in, you said there has been consistent inflation. So what is the real income of the teacher from 2017 to 2025 now?
So I think it's now way below around $50 if we are going to. And now, in addition to the erosion caused by inflation, there is also the issue to deal with, the issue of debt. Because you understand that initially the salary was not at 270. After the changes, the current changes that were done by Muturi Mube around 2018,
yes,
and successive changes, the salary of a teacher at some point dropped to as low as $30 through current changes. Because you'll be told now that your salary now, the current is now 1:1 between the local currents, RTGS, and the
yes.
Then you are so told that you are earning in the RTGS, but the real value of the money that you were earning then was equivalent to just $30. And you understand that we went on for years earning below $50
yes,
up to the COVID crisis. So between 2018 to around 2020, we were earning around $30. It was only during COVID that a COVID allowance of 75 US dollars was then introduced. Then so we now had this 75 US. That was now the only income that we had as teachers. So before that COVID income, we literally had the money had lost value almost close to $10 when we got the COVID allowance. That is where you see teachers walking from Tare to Harare on foot in 2019.
Yes, I know. I remember at one time, I was liaising with some educators who were walking from Mutare to Harare, and we had to, provide solidarity in terms of water and so on and so on. And I thought these were stories, but now, because I got you here, you are a president of a teachers union, which is recognized at law in Zimbabwe, which is probably one of the biggest unions, if not the biggest. You cannot tell me stories here. You tell me reality on the ground backed by figures. I want to know, what do you tell your membership? Here, I'm talking to you as the president of ATUS. What do you tell your membership? to try to explain to them that it is okay, it is normal for them 8 years down the line to earn less than 20% of their real income.
Yeah, so I would just tie that up with what I was concluding here to say, during that process where we're earning around $30 then to the COVID income, we only then got a real salary, an increment in 2022, February 2022. That's where we got to around almost $300. So now, but because of all these years, for the teacher to be able to pay for the basics, they were borrowing. So if you are going to be looking at the pay slip of a teacher today, this 270, you hardly find a teacher who earns 270 as net income. You find a teacher who earns $0 every month.
Uh,
Because
no, Comrade Robert.
no, I'm telling you.
Okay. I know that might be true, but now I think here on this note, I might be. I'm now being forced even to engage my villagers. So how do we expect you guys, you teachers, to actually teach our children when you are earning even zero? Is this normal?
Yeah. No, that's where the tragedy is really, because now we are dealing with a situation where um, a teacher fails to get a bus fare to get back to work whenever school's opening. And this is factual. If you go on the internet, you can look at the statements made by the former PMSEC of the Minister of Education in 2022, when she clearly says, we understand that teachers do not have bus fares to go to work, but we expect them to borrow. We just want to see in the class. It's there, she said it, it's a matter of fact. So through that borrowing now, this is where we find teachers trapped in unsustainable debt. And from our findings, over 90% of our teachers are in unsustainable debt. So this is where then we have gone back to government to say, can you look at the model of what they did in Zambia? But in Zambia, post-COVID-19, they came
Yes.
to and realized that not only teachers, but civil servants were trapped in unsustainable debt. And this was now affecting the purchasing power at the household level and the overall affecting the performance of the economy in a way. So what they then did was then to say, okay, the government assumes all the debts for civil
Yes.
servants and then come up with a payback model, which is a bit more flexible, which also includes exchanging your leave days, among other things, for real money. So, but then the
Okay.
government
Okay. Can I just cut in there?
Mm,
Zimbabweans, the villagers actually,
mm,
they are very jittery on the issue of data assumption,
mm,
not about teachers or civil servants or whatever.
mm,
Can't we have another model which
mm.
can help us? Because the issue of debt assumption, I think I was going to get there with you. Do you think that the issue of data assumption with the current governance system or government actual, if I will be blunt, do you think it's sustainable? Where we are saying every irresponsible act of the government should be assumed by the citizens.
No, in this case, this is a different model. We understand that the government has been assuming debts for the elite, but we are proposing a different model altogether. In farm mechanization, they assumed the debt, but the people who got the mechanization were a few elites. But the
Yes,
other
where we are saying a person who does not even own a single square meter of land is are now being asked to pay for debts of someone who owns 100 hectares of land.
Yeah, but in our situation now, what we are asking, we are not asking the taxpayer to be permanently burdened. Because if you are going to be looking at the model that we are proposing, you look at the
Yes.
NBS, the National Building Society, already is holding money under the government employee mutual savings called GEMS. These are contributions made by teachers and other civil servants over the years. they say the money is available for low interest loans. So we are saying we can go back to the NBS and see what they have. But then we also then get some lending from government temporarily. So you leverage on the NBS to help settle debts from third parties. Then the government will then still get its money back from the civil servants at a lower interest, but having given them some flexibility to have some disposable income, so that
Yes.
these families
They are not breathing. We know they are not breathing, these people.
yeah. So then when we ease the burden on them, we increase their productivity in the classroom and elsewhere where civil servants are employed. Then through that process, the government is also working on a strategy of increasing the incomes. Because if we are going to deal with this debt burden, but then we do not have a strategy of improving the incomes, we will then find the teachers and the civil servants sliding back into the old debt. So while we are clearing this debt, we are structuring a new model of ensuring that we attend to the welfare of the civil servants, because the civil servants are not asking for too much. If you read all the demands,
I understand what you are saying, Comrade Opent. But now I have a problem with the whole model, and I like you keep on using the word model. Why, if you are a leader of educators, you are a leader in civil society, I understand you speak the minds of people in civil society. Crisis Coalition, Atuzi is an affiliate of Zimbabwe Congress of State Trade Unions, which is labor and so on. If I might ask you, why do we have a situation where labor continue to accept, if you come or if you go to South Africa, they are not rich, but some of these conditions that me and you have talked about here, of income falling from $540 nominal to 270 in real terms, may be falling by more than 80% or so. Why is it that our labor in Zimbabwe accept those unfair conditions? Why?
Yeah, so
is it lack of leadership? Is it lack of, or are you guys in trade unions? Are you selling out these workers? What is happening there?
I think that is a very important question. So the first thing that we have to say is that we have never accepted that income. So then I like the fact that you convey us to South Africa and other jurisdictions. So I will begin the response at a legal level. Then we go to administrative conduct and how organized labor has been responding. So beginning at the level of the law, if you go to South Africa and almost all the countries in the region, there is a provision for collective bargaining. There is a provision for collective bargaining where the employer and the employees come together. They discuss, they engage until they agree.
We actually have the Labor Relations Act here, Basic Conditions of Employment Act here. That is the framework in which we are saying in South Africa, employees and their employers may engage, but within the framework of the constitution. So I will ask you, Comrade Obed, you are a president of one of the biggest unions in Zimbabwe, which is an affiliate of the biggest labor union in Zimbabwe, which is FCTU. What is the problem which is actually arresting your capacity, yourself and all the comrades in trade unions and everywhere else, to engage the employers both in the public sector and in the private sector, to make sure that workers are not being, subjugated? One, two, they are earning dog's tax, if I'm to be blunt here. These people are not workers, they're slaves.
So, like I was still explaining, it is to begin with the law. So that is why currently we are in the process of fighting for reforms of the Public Service Act. So you understand that currently the regulation for engaging the employer was governed by the statutory instrument 141 of 1997.
Yes.
That doesn't provide for collective bargaining, but for consultation, wherein they create the National Joint Negotiating Council, a consultation platform, but not a collective bargaining platform. So if you are going to read Section 20 of the current Public Service Act, it clearly states that conditions of service for the public service are made by the minister in consultation with the workers, but they also get engaged with the finance minister and the president. But they go on to explicitly state that, but whether or not there is consensus between the minister and the workers side, that will not invalidate whatever conditions of service minister is going to set. So without dealing with those particular procedures, our power to bargain is limited. But then you also understand that the collective bargaining is backed by collective job action. So if there is a disagreement between the worker side,
That is where I wanted you to go. Can you please go there?
so when the employer side and the employee side are not in agreement, the employee over the world, the workers go back and disrupt the center of production where their muscle is, and force the employer. But unfortunately,
And I think that should be basic.
yeah, unfortunately for the civil service at the moment, if you go to the and the regulations, particularly the statutory instrument 2000, statutory instrument 1 of 2000,
Yes.
engaging in a job action is prohibited, and if you are found engaging in one, an offense that can lead to. That is why when you see us organizing for these job actions, the teachers are hesitant to join. And we are so proud of our teachers because knowing that the laws are staked against them, they have been revolutionary enough to go for strike. In February 2022, we closed all schools in Zimbabwe. The government threatened that they were firing everyone using
I know about that labor action. I know, and I actually, I was talking to some educators in Zimbabwe. I never talked to you about that, but I know about that job action, and personally, I was proud about it.
Yeah. So, but now, if the laws are not changed and that mean conduct is not changed, what then happens is that for future actions, people become more hesitant. Or then we manage to go to court and got everyone to get back to work, but then government imposed some deductions on people's pay slips, people lost incomes. Although they got an increment, but they still got some deductions for the days they did not report for duty. So,
but as it stands, Comrade Obed, is there anything to lose here?
Yeah, there isn't much to lose. But look, we are dealing with people in survival mode. So right now, in as much as they have almost nothing, but they want to eat the next meal, and this only pay slip is their only means of survival. They do not have any savings. They do not have any assets. They've sold all their assets. Imagine these teachers used to have cars during when they had good
I know.
They had very good cars. Some of them had bought cattle, among other things. They've been forced to sell everything, and they're now relying just on that particular pay slip. So they've been reduced to serious paupers. Now, when someone is in survival mode, I think research has shown that people have a better fighting chance when at least they are assured of a meal. In the 90s, our people could go on a lot of job actions because they knew they had savings. If you don't get
savings, they had something to fall back on. Now,
so today, if your salary is frozen that month,
which brings me, Comrade Obed, to my next issue. I know me and you, when it comes to education, we might need maybe a decade or more to talk about. But the bottom line is very clear. We are at our worst in terms of one, the parents who are key stakeholders in education, the learners who are the fundamental players in education, and of course the educators, from the teacher, the principal, the education officers and whatever. Everyone is incapacitated, we know. But as I can see, or as you can see, Comrade Opet, education is simply a microcosm of the macrocosm. It is simply a reflection of the state of the nation from every sector, be it the primary sector, the secondary sector, the tertiary sector, and the quaternary sector. I think education is simply a reflector between me and you of what is obtaining in our country. But we are not blind, and you are not blind. That's why I do invite you to whatever is happening outside education. Let's talk about the state of the nation, Comrade Obed. Where is our politics? It's a general person. As a citizen, I'm not asking you this question as any other capacity. No, as a villager from Janja, where I was in December.
Yeah, it's really, we are in a mess. Really, that's the long and short of it. It's a mess. Why? Because our traditional way of doing politics, we seem to have changed it. We used to have politics where people would fight on a daily basis, demanding services if there were no services.
Yes.
Keeping those who are in power on their toes. Those who are governing were always governing, listening to the people, because the people always demanded answers and solutions.
Their voice was always the ultimate power anyway.
But we have lost that voice as a people, where our politics have been reduced to a ritual that comes during the cycle of elections. So we now have a whole citizen that is trapped in apathy. Then towards an election, they come campaigns to say, go register to vote, register to vote. Then when the vote comes, people vote. Then the elections are rigged. Then the people disperse. People complain that they've been rigged.
Are the elections really rigged, Comrade Obet?
Yeah, the elections in Zimbabwe are completely rigged. Not even on the voting
Who
day.
rigs them? Is it on the voting day? Is it the system? Who rigs elections in Zimbabwe? And what are those people who claim to have elections being rigged continuously? Why do they come back into those elections?
So the rigging of elections really in Zimbabwe is very systematic. It's done by multiple state institutions that instead of serving the people, serve the interests of the ruling party. So you find that the role of the police, for example, is to protect all citizens. But when you in Zimbabwe, you find the police playing the role of banning gatherings.
We know about that. We know about that.
And if you can't canvass for votes, if you can't have your rallies, the election has been rigged. The role, for example, of the military is to defend the territorial integrity of the whole republic. But if
it should be like that.
If in August 2018, on the 1st of August, those who decided to complain against the procedure of the election,
they were killed in cold blood. I know about that personally.
So that is rigging the election.
And we had actually, I'll bring you back. Me and you were youngsters by then. I think it was around 2002. When he declared on national television that the military is not. And I think, I don't know, you are a citizen like me. Do we have a conclusive solution on that statement that was made by Navash in 2002 in relation to the military's position in as far as elections and governance and assumption of power in Zimbabwe is concerned? Is there a resolution there? And on that basis, do we really need to go to any election before we have a concrete resolution on that statement?
Yeah, so the only cure to that statement is when you go to the constitution, which then clearly provides how the processes are supposed to be run, the role of the military, and how power is supposed to be assumed in the republic. But then, like you are saying, the admin conduct or the conduct of the military itself, when it's not aligned to the constitution, it's naive to then go to sheepishly submit yourself to these rituals without seeking ways of reforming these particular state institutions. And you go to read the Motlande report, which then also speaks to these fundamental issues, but that report is gathering dust without the findings being implemented. So, but then again, there is no noise to say we want these things done. So what then happens is, those who are in power, who are benefiting from this particular impact, they do not have they are not that generous to just wake up one day to say, okay, we are going to remove the military.
But look, Comrade Obed, me and you, we have never had any power of any sort, but we are practical human beings. Is it normal for us, villagers, peasants, workers, labor, vendors, unemployed, and even civil servants and everyone else, to expect those who are benefiting from a wrong to change that wrong? Who should change it?
Definitely, it has to be changed from below. You can't expect the state media, for example, which only covers the ruling party and the editors are rewarded for that. You don't expect the state media to just wake up rebelling against the ruling party. The change should be demanded from below, from the dispossessed.
Which brings me again to the next question, Comrade Obed. Sorry for cutting you short there, because we are running short of time here. But my question is now: do we have a platform? These citizens, as far as I'm concerned, I'll put it to you, because you're a leader of labor. You are a spokesperson of labor, of actually citizens in a crisis. Anyway, I will put it to you to say, do these citizens have a voice? Do they have an organization in form of even a political party which can actually demand in material terms, not rhetorical or in theory, in material terms, material, real, effective changes which can actually transform into a free and fair election in Zimbabwe?
Currently, the vehicles that the citizens had built over the years have collapsed. They have collapsed due to coercion. They have collapsed due to co-option. So it's really a serious crisis where the biggest political party in Zimbabwe, the Movement for Democratic Change, that was built over years, that was built on the blood of Tondera Ndira, Patrick Nyamba, sorry, the pronunciation is so, but Mabika, among a lot of citizens who died fighting for a democratic Zimbabwe, their blood really over the years was supposed to grow a democratic culture that was going to be achieved through a machinery called the Movement for Democratic Change. Yes. So that machinery collapsed, and then
it's no longer there. Okay, so I'll ask you. I hear names. I hear a lot of names in relation to the MDC. I'm asking for my people. You know my people. The peasants, the villagers, the vendors, the unemployed, the youth, the vagrants, the street people. So those are my people. And they are the millions, they are the majority. And those are my people, and So I'm asking for these people. I hear a lot of names, MDC whatever and MDC whatever. And me and you, we know. And I agree with you. For the first time, I would agree with someone whom I'm having a discussion with easily, that the MDC, which brought up me and you, maybe as political players here and there, because we will not try to run away, Comrade Obed, that we were just passengers in this thing. After 2008, me and you were also players here and there, though we peripheral. So I am saying, is it fair to my people? And they ask me to say, is the MDC still there?
No, there's nothing called the MDC anymore. The MDC died because the MDC was not a name. The MDC was a movement with clear values, clear principles, and a clear identity. That identity is gone. If you want to see that their identity is gone, you can even go to their headquarters, where even it is now a shopping center.
I hear that they are selling even. I wouldn't want to name it on this respectable platform of mine.
So that is the nature of the collapse. But it's not only the political party that has collapsed. We used to have respectable civil society platforms. We had the Crisis in Zimbabwe Coalition.
Yes. I know you even spoke for Crisis in Zimbabwe Coalition, and I respected that platform.
At some point, I was speaking there, but it was already a pale shadow of itself. You go to the Zimbabwe Congress.
Yes.
It is now a pale shadow. It's no longer the same ZCTU where Morgan Tsvangirai was the Secretary General.
What happened there? Tell me, Comrade Opet. What happened with our ZCTU? What happened with our Crisis Zimbabwe Coalition? What happened with our civic society? Tell me. You used one word which my villagers want you to actually elaborate on. Is it co-option?
Yeah, there is both co-option and cohesion, because honestly, over the years, what has been happening is that when there was a lot of donor funding, the agency was transferred from the grassroots to the boardrooms, to the bureaucrats with power. So the grassroots then became recipients of donor-funded projects. So in the process, it then became a scheme of those who were able to access the donor money to first of all meet their immediate needs, then try to use whatever is left to go back and try to organize communities. But that was always too little. Then until the communities themselves realized that this is no longer the civil society that we created. There is no longer any organic linkage between us and these people. These people now drive very big cars. They live in lit suburbs, but they want to come and give us $5 each. So ordinary people realized they were being duped. So people
you are answering questions which actually the villagers had asked me to ask, and you answered them before I ask you. Do we still have a struggle?
No. And currently, there is no struggle to talk of. What we are seeing is people posturing. People can posture to do anything for the sake of getting attention, either from donor or potential future voters. But really to say what is going on, was if people are in a struggle, there should be a political program. There should be a program to say, where are we going? If you are going to be looking at the convention of 1999, they produced a political program. If you are going to look at the People's Charter, which was also done around 2008, 7, 8, that charter is a clear program of what is people are really doing. But if you want to go back, say, if people are going to say there are some people who say we are relaunching another political party, they relaunch and relaunch plan to. But if you are going to be saying what has been their program from when they launched in 2018 to date, and can we update that program? They do not even have a program on their way. If you go to the collective of civil society to say what is the common program, what we are working on as a people at the moment, there is no program at the moment. So
yes, there's nothing.
As long as we are reactionary, just saying when there's an event,
this one have said this, so we must react like this. This one have said it. So, yes. Which brings me, Comrade President, Obed, time is not on our side. I trust you, the villagers trust you on this one. to say, we know where you have come from, we know where you are. We know we still have decades and decades of fighting and so on ahead of us. But at this juncture, Zimbabwe is at crossroads, Comrade Obed. Every citizen who is in Europe, in Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Harare, in Usibamaraba Pfungwe, in Mrewa, in Njanja, in Chimbwisi, or wherever, must actually come forward and contribute something. Comrade, what is the way forward? We are told that we are going to have elections in 2028. We are finishing 2025 now. Is it feasible for any political party without any electoral reforms which are material to talk about elections? In fact, what is the way forward?
No, those who are talking about elections in 2028, just they're taking our people for granted. The best that they will get are their seats in parliament and in council. And that is the change that they desire. It's change at a personal level, because we know
it's the change for their personal at their personal level.
At their personal level,
we want way forward for the nation.
For the nation, what we want really is to find ways to find each other, build a new political program, a new charter for ourselves, building on what we already that we already have in our contextual realities. Then with that new agenda, then use it in different communities and revive a genuine people's movement, wherein the citizens are not reduced to become mere voters. The citizens have the urgency to be fighting on a daily basis, and we could just engage in what form of a participatory action research of sort, where we are learning every day. While we are acting, we continue to listen to each other, to gather new views as part of a research, and continue to build a board of knowledge that continues to inform our struggle as a people. Just engage in praxis where we are learning from the mistakes that we make, and we evaluate and become better fighters and push. But that struggle is not going to be fought on the ballot if the ballot is already rigged. So we want to have a struggle that is focusing on freeing the ballot, but not only that, but only even freeing our people from poverty. We have urgent issues right now that can't be deferred to the day when the ballot is free. We have the Chinese who are plundering our nation. We need urgent solutions. We need to be organizing, chasing away the Chinese from their communities. We can't allow our people to be slaughtered whilst we are waiting for a ballot that is free. We should be going to communities, organizing people, to chase away all the Chinese who are responsible for abusing our people. We should right now go after the thieves who are stealing our money every month, Vikananda, wherever they are. We target their business, we target their social gatherings, we target them at a personal level to make it unbearable for them to continue stealing from us as a people. Those struggles have to be fought now. We can't allow.
So basically, Comrade Obed, you are saying to me here, and to my people, and to all the people who are your people and my people, that it should start from the household.
Yeah.
It should start from the village. It should start from the street. Let's just work together for our common good as a people. We are a movement already. Let's just make sure that movement materializes, because it was already there. It's always there. The village is there.
Yeah.
The street is there.
Yeah. So we need to coalesce as the dispossessed across the nation, fighting our local struggles, connect them to the national struggles. Then we build a movement for all who are dispossessed, who are the majority. And through that kind of process, we will find even a vehicle which doesn't even need a name, where people can freely express themselves with time and eventually be able to transform our republic, to transform our state institutions, to become institutions that serve the many, not a few, to then free our Zimbabwe from the neo-colonial grip, to free Zimbabwe from the local dictatorship, to free Zimbabwe from imperialism, to free our people from poverty, to make sure that the taps have running water, the taps in Budire have running water, and we have functional transport, healthcare, education for our people. But we have to fight.
Thank you. Comrade Obit, we thank you. I know you are a busy man. I know we are even going to meet. You are even going to meet our people in Zimbabwe. There, you are always there. You are there every day. We continue with these conversations everywhere and anywhere, in our platforms, in our villages, in our minds, in our streets, in our ghettos, in our suburbs, in our towns, in our churches, in our taverns, everywhere. Zimbabwe is our country. It's our homeland. We have nothing except Zimbabwe. It's homeland or death. Thank you, Comrade Robert.
Thank you
Amandla.
thank you for having me. It was a